I got this idea from a guy. I think he's named himself Smiley on AR15.com. He did this, and he did a pretty good job. He didn't give too many details, so you'd kind of have to figure this out yourself. So I thought maybe what I'd do is put together, maybe kind of record what I'm doing along the way, and maybe it could help people as I figure it out. You guys could do it too. So the first thing I noticed was had to figure out how to get this back plate off here, and it ended up being pretty simple. I've pretty much loosened everything up already, but there's just two screws here in the back, like most butt pads on any stock. That comes off just like that. Put that aside, and then I found the there's two screws inside here, inside the end cap, which I've removed already. And then I was pulling on it and going, well, that ain't it. So I looked down the buttstock, and I found one bolt down there. And all you need is you need a long screwdriver. You get that guy down there and turn that guy out, and it came out pretty easily. And there it is. So it's just a threaded bolt with a regular head in it for your screwdriver. We'll put that aside. And I started pulling again, and it was still pretty tight. So, but it did wiggle. It was moving, so I knew I was getting somewhere. And there is a heavy steel piece in here that goes from the inside of the back plate about maybe, I don't know, 1.5 to 2 inches into the stock itself. So you give that a couple things and a couple twists, and it gets moving. And then you gotta, once you get it out there, you gotta kind of slam it like this and pull hard, and it will start pulling it out. And you can see it's burrowed in there in the stock. So I just kind of did this, and bada boom, it came out. And then this is the piece that holds your stock to your end cap here. This is certainly a far cry from your GSG stock. I mean, let me look at this. I mean, look at this hunk of junk. Your little GSG stock, and then it's all plastic. I don't know what they were thinking. That's an embarrassment. Anyway, so there's your part, and you can see now. You can pretty much see through it. Next step here, I think I'm gonna have to. We got to cut one of these off so it'll fit properly in there on the back of the gun. But the first thing, I think I've got to figure out how to get this. I got to figure out how to get this recoil spring and rod off the gun, or I'm sorry, off the end cap. So I'm gonna start poking at that, and I'll dial in a minute. Spring out, this rod and spring from the back plate, and of course it's gonna be under a lot of tension from the spring. So what I've done is I just put a pair of vice grips on there, pulled the spring back so it would expose the end piece here, and inside that end piece you're gonna see just this pin, which sits inside there, and there's two small pins, retaining pins that hold that together, and they're pretty small little guys. Anyway, I just got out my little number 15 punch, I think it is, and punched those guys out, and it was actually this end piece would not come out real easy. It was quite a bear. It's been in there for a long time. So anyway, I had to hold it back with these vice grips, keep it retained, and then when I did that, I was able to just stick it on the end of the workbench here and put a screwdriver on it and give it a couple taps there and knock that out while holding the spring back. So now we got to release the spring. I don't think it's that powerful, but enough to be dangerous. Let's just take that off, and here comes this little O-ring here, and off comes the spring. All right. So I don't know what we're gonna do with that one. That's okay. So next step is to figure out what I got to do to take off this this rod. So let's see. I'll be back. That's essentially what I'm doing. Is you can tell I already started. Just kind of grinding off the mashed end with a a grinding stone on the old Dremel here. That inside. So I'm going to give it a shot here and just kind of angle it here on the old little mini vise. Let's just put an old punch in here and see if we can knock that. Well, what do you know? Okay, it went down there somewhere, but all right. It's out, as you can see, and here's your grind mark. Okay, perfect. That's just what we wanted. Just what we wanted. All right, so let's see if it fits on the back of the gun. Let's see if this is all worth it or not. So let's see. Here's our little handy-dandy collapsible stock, which was, I guess that was fun for a little while. It looks good, but I don't know. Let's see here. This guy. Ooh, look at that. That is gonna marry right up on there. That looks like it's gonna work well. So your new butt plate is gonna fit right on there, and as you can see, you've only got one. Of course, you got one hole there, so I got to take off. I'm gonna have to cut this guy out. Cut off one end there, so this will actually fit well up against the end of the gun. But I think this is going to go very well. So let's get cutting on that. Essentially, what I've done is just measured, used my caliper and kind of guesstimated the from the center of the hole on the end of the lower receiver, and measured that to the lip edge here, and then I've transferred that line to the stock plate here. So I don't have a big steel cutting blade on my chop saw. Of course, I would just zip that off real quick. So I'm just going to use the Dremel here and a cutting tool and just hand cut it. And it looks like it's cutting pretty quick. So that's what he threw. So it cuts pretty good. So I'm going to finish that cut up and get it shaped properly, and I'll be back with that. Like that, about like this. It's kind of hard to see her on this video, but there's going to be a little bit of a shelf right here, which will fit on the bottom of the receiver. So you can see that cut right there. Well, I'm going to continue that and shelf that off, I would guess you could call it. And this, you see this big lip hangout here? We're going to cut that straight down and then in. And that will work well. Actually, this actually is cutting pretty easily. It only took me a couple of minutes to get through this stuff. And it's pretty heavy gauge steel, but this little cutting tool actually cuts it pretty good. There we go. If you try to bite too much with that cutting tool, it'll jump on you. It can be dangerous. Make sure you got glasses on to cut that stuff. You can see there the little notch. There you go. There's a good view of it. So let's see how that goes on the back of the gun. Let's see how this. And I'm not too worried about marking it up because I'm going to coat this whole thing anyway. Wow, look at that. Almost there. You can see that that's very close. Very close. A little more trimming to do, a little more pushing and trimming, and we're almost there. So what I've got so far, I kept on trimming and fitting and trimming and fitting and trimming and fitting, and this is pretty much what you get left with. Let me see if this will focus on. There we go. And I put the stock on the cap real quick with just the 2 screws inside. That big metal piece right here. It's not in it, but just for fitting reasons. So I got that where I want it. It's still got some burrs and it's got to be cleaned up a little bit. But let's see how she goes on the back of the gun. Ooh, mighty nice. Now it looks like. Oh, by the way, the push pins on the H&K back plate is pretty big. So you're at a little over 1/4 on those things, and the hole in the back of your hand grip is not quite that size. It's designed to fit the smaller one that goes up on the handguard, I think. But regardless, what I did was I just found my drill bit to fit that properly, and I re-drilled the hole here. Yeah, it probably takes a little. It takes a little bit of about 2/100 of a off there. It's not much. I'm not too concerned about that. Those are cheap. I've got my original one anyway. If I screwed it up, I've got this one. Anyway, let's see how she goes here. Let's put that on there. It's a pretty good fit. I drilled that thing pretty tight, and it does take a little bit of pressure to get that thing to fit nicely. Let's see if I can get the pin in there. Ooh, there it goes. Now let's see what I've got on the other side here. It's a little snug. I'm going to have to give it a little bit of persuasion. There we go. Look at that. Looks pretty good, I would say. We're getting pretty close. First thing you might notice, though, is the fit right here. It's, they're not exact. I'm not sure if I want to fuss too much with it. I might clean it up a little bit more. Let's see what the other side looks like. See, it's kind of open. A little bit of an open gap. I might uh, I might try to close that up a little bit. Try to mold that down somehow. I don't know if I want to apply heat to it or just try to force it, bend it. But it doesn't look too bad. Looks pretty good. And the stock that fits really snug. Much better than that crappy stock one. This actually feels really good. Yeah. Okay, so success. Very good. Got to take off our charging handle here. And yes, get the right screwdriver. We only need to take out 2 to get that off. I think it's a little bit different on the original GSG-5. This is anyway the back and the one up here to the forward of the receiver. This stuff is spring loaded here. Okay. And that should be able to just slide right forward. Come on, baby. There we go. Just like so. Okay. And now you gotta get that'll take that bad boy off. And take your spring out. You don't need to keep that in there. Okay, so now we've got our charging handle off. And now you got that funny looking GSG with that little pencil barrel sticking out. Looking at the next things I'm going to try to tackle here. We got our stock on there. Next thing is, how am I going to get this long handguard to marry up with this properly? Okay. This part here doesn't concern me. That looks pretty straightforward. But if you notice, if you look, let's see, if you look this direction here, you'll see that it stops. It's stopping against this piece of the upper receiver here, where that tapped hole is for your original SD handguard. So what I'm thinking here, looking at it, it looks like it's just wood material in there that can be taken away. So looking in here, this there's a big kind of a big lip in here, and this is the metal flange here on the outside, but that's relatively thin. That's not much. The girth of it all is wood. So I think if I just put this on here, center that up, and I don't know, mark the outside edges of this block here on the upper receiver section. You know, I could probably just grind out, I don't know, it looks like about an inch worth of the wood in there, and then just grind and set it up there and just, you know, cut a little bit, reset it, see how it's going. Because what you want to do is you want to bring this bottom up level with this ring here with the rounded section here of the receiver. Want those to fit nice, and I think that they will. So we'll start taking a look at that and see what we can do. So here we go. We're going to start looking at grinding that down. But before we go on with that, I'm just going to use this sharp cutting tool. It's works very well with wood. Use it on my kids' Pinewood Derby cars. Let's just put that guy in there. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take some material out there. I've got the bottom marked about where I've got to be. So we're just going to try to just cut a little bit out of there and see how it goes. That probably looked like a lot more than it was, but we'll just see if that made any difference. Oh yeah, it certainly did. Brought that up about 1/8 of an inch. So that's even getting closer. What I want to happen too is, you can see the top of the charging handle. I want the edge. I want this edge right here to be just underneath it. That'll be good. A little more grinding on that thing, and we should be pretty good. Just remember, you can always take more off. You can't put more back on. So remember that when you start grinding away on your wood. All right, so I just got done grinding a little more. So now you can see right there on the lip. You can see where it's where it used to be. Turn that towards the camera a little bit, and you can see where it's been flattened out and ground up. So let's see how this goes. It's pretty funny though, when you're grinding that wood, this old walnut, it smells like old. It smokes a lot. It smells like old military wood. Okay, it looks pretty good. That definitely brought that up quite a bit. So now the next thing is to, it's kind of got to make a decision here, whether I'm going to take off this inner ring, or am I just going to, notch this out here. That's the decision I got to make. I just notch out that inner ring, or I take it off and then go in deeper. I don't think I want to do that. I think I want to just go in here and take off the inner ring area and get that in there. Once you take that off, we'll have a better idea about, how much more material you'll have to take off inside. But so we'll start looking at that now. All right, I had a little bit of an idea here. I'm looking at this thing, and I saw the pictures about how it was notched out, and this, when I was talking about before, the lip here that I think I want to lose. Now, if I take this whole lip off, that essentially is going to encase these teeth. Now, I'm not sure about the original GSG, but this one's got I've got a threaded holder already, and I could countersink myself a little stainless steel bolt in there and attach it right there. And essentially, that would make this a real clean fit. If you were to bring that all the way up there so that ring is flush with this ring, that'd be really nice. I think I'm gonna go for it. I'm taking that whole thing off, and we're gonna make this thing work that way. All right, let's try that. All right, so let's let me adjust this a little bit. All right, so let's cut this guy off. It's got the cutting wheel on here. There it goes. Ooh. Ooh. Don't touch that, it's hot. Okay. All right, so that outside ring is gone. And now you can go back to grind off the rest of that wood. And that's gonna work good. So what I've done is completely taken off that lip. Now it's flat. And now when I slide it up against her, oh yeah, I can clearly see that that's going to That's going to fit up nicely against there. Now all I got to do now is do the notching, but we're going to notch the insides so that this ring doesn't expose these little tabs that are on that receiver. So I'm just pretty much got the Dremel on a slow speed here. I'm just going to do a little dental work here. I got my rounded cutting bit. You can see kind of what we're doing here. See that? So then this ring will encase those little tabs that are on that receiver. A little more grinding and we'll be ready to test it. So I've been doing a lot of grinding, and I'll show you where we are so far. You see that? We're almost there, but what we've maintained is that ring. See? Don't mind that. That'll buff out. Here's a better side. See the nice solid ring on the outside? And then we're going to do that on the inside. Okay, so let's see how it's doing. Let's put that guy on there. Ooh. Oh, getting close. You can see, now you can see what I'm talking about. Right there. It's coming close. So I'm going to keep grinding out a little more, and then we will be there. Okay, a little more grinding on there. Now let's see where we are. Slide that right over it. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about right there. Okay, nice clean fit. We're not exposing those little tabs. Looks like it was made for the gun. Look at that. Clean. Very clean. And now that I've cut those, it's very snug. So I notched those very tight. Let me see if I can get you a good view. See that? And when on the Dremel tool, when you plunge, it's just they're almost completely square, but that fits very tight. Very tight fit. Let's do it again. Oh yeah. There we go. That's a good fit. That's nice and snug and clean. That makes me very happy. Okay, well, that's a big part done. And the next thing is we got to extend the charging handle. That's what we got to do. So we're going to have to do a little fancy cutting work. Let's just see for fun how that fits right here. Oh yeah. Yeah, this fits nice. That's going to look like $1,000,000. Finish that up nicely. Nice finish on the gun. It'll look like a completely different rifle. Nice. Okay. Well, that's the next thing. Either I'm going to do that or I'm going to get my machinist buddy to do it for me. I'm going to get Big Todd to do that for me. Okay. Where are we here? What we've done here is taken those stock and the foregrip we bought for $19, and I put some chemical stripper on it, and then sanded it pretty good. Used just some chemical stripper, and then after that dried, hit it with a 60 grit, and then finished up with a 120. Get all the swirl marks out from the machine I used, and so it looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to hit it with a little semi-gloss poly and see how that goes. This dark here actually is this is walnut, so that's actually the dark grain in the wood, which actually looks really nice. So let's take a big piece here and let's see what happens. Let's put a little poly on here and see what we can get. See how our finish turns out. Oh boy, look at that. Oh yeah. I'm not too worried about the metal in there. Boy, that looks, oh man, like $1 million. Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll just brush on a quick coat of poly, and this is an oil base. I wouldn't put anything else on it but oil. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Couple dark spots from old damage, but I don't know, it gives it a good rustic look. So just first light coat, and then let this dry tonight, and then tomorrow I'll hit it with some steel wool. That's the best thing to do between your coats. Steel wool it. Knock down the imperfections in your finish, and your finish will come out real smooth and real nice. So yeah, that looks nice. I'll see if I can wipe by, hit that a couple times, but that looks pretty nice. I'm pretty happy with that color of that wood. Boy, that walnut sure comes out nice, doesn't it? Get a little close up on that. Yeah, that looks pretty good. All right, so we're gonna let that dry. Let's do the let's hit this handguard here real quick and see what that dark walnut spots look like. Yeah, that's nice. Boy. So that's real old wood. You know, this handguard came from the 60s, and you know, who knows how old the wood was that they used in there. Yeah, that looks good. That grain's nice. So, yeah, that's going to look fantastic. Can't wait to have it all done. Okay, so there we go. That's our first coat. Oil-based polyurethane on the handguard and on the buttstock. Looking good. Looking very, very good. I am happy with that. Like I said, your first coat, just a light coat to, the wood's going to soak it up pretty good since we sanded it so much. The grains opened up, and there we go. Good. We'll let that dry too. Okay, so our next stop will be once this dries, we'll do another coat on there. We'll steel wool it and do a second coat. I think we'll go three coats on there. That will be a good thick coat on there, and we'll steel wool it in between each coat, and it should look good. Okay. Last time I was shooting video, I was still working on finish on the stock and handguard. Here's the handguard, or I'm sorry, here's the stock. After a couple of coats of finish and steel wool, just did a little, bought some chemical stripper. The old finish on here was really gummy and old, and and pretty brutal. So anyway, just chemicaled that and scraped it, and then did a good sand job on it with some 60 grit, and then followed up with a little 120, and just put a clear semi-gloss oil base on it, and then in between finishes, steel wool, and that looks good. And then just painted the ring there for your sling, and I just put on the old end back on the stock. Anyway, it looks good. I'm pretty happy with that. I was just touching up the handguard here. Let's open that up real quick. It shouldn't take, bear with me, shouldn't take much. A couple seconds here to pull this all off. Don't want to get any coatings on your finished wood. There we go. Okay, so and there's our handguard. Looks really good. Came out. I'm so impressed with the way this came out. I mean, look at that. Look at that grain in this thing, man. It looks really good. Really pretty wood. So what I've done while I was refinishing those, I also I had the whole gun torn apart and put a nice coat on the clamshell of the upper receiver, because you know this comes apart in two pieces. And you can see now that my colors really match nicely now. The color between the lower receiver and the upper looks really nice now. If any of you guys have the newer one like I've got, the GSG-522, and not the original GSG-5, I don't know if they're all like this, but the color that they put on the newer one was more like a grayish. There you go. If any of you guys are out there thinking about buying one of those so-called upgrade kits like I did, so you can get the old ring sight and everything, look at the color differences. So when you put this new one on your GSG, your 522, it's a completely different color. So you gotta finish it anyway. It just looks like crap. All right, so here we go. Let's take a quick look at how things are looking so far. Let's see how this fits. Oh yeah, that looks good. There we go. Like it was meant to be. Looks really nice. Oops. Set that in there again. Hey, get in there. There we go. Okay, there we go. Anyway, that's what we're looking at. As you can tell the color is just, man, it looks awesome. So today, the UPS guy came today and brought me my little package from Speedy Metals. I know I mentioned I was going to get my buddy, machinist buddy, to turn out my parts for the extension. That never materialized. So he's kind of a busy guy anyway. So I went to Speedy Metals and found that they had some stock material there that looked like it was going to work. They had a piece of steel tube and a piece of aluminum tube that the dimensions looked really close. So I measured the outside, inside diameters of everything, and what I came up with is, let's see how it looks here. So here's my outside piece, aluminum. Of course, I haven't milled it yet. And here's my little inner piece of steel. And I just did that because, well, the inside piece of the charging handle is steel, and the outside is some kind of a aluminum, I think, or something else. Anyway, so as they are, the idea is that this is going to slide through. Oh, and look at that. a little bit of play. There's about a 2/1000th of an inch in there to play. That is going to work really good. Okay. This is going to marry up just fine once I cut that out, make that fit nice. The next big challenge is this piece going to fit where it's supposed to? And so when you charge, oh, look at that. That works really good. And there's a little bit of play. The original part's got a lot of play, but this looks to me like it's all going to work just fine. So I'll just cut these to size, and we should be good. All right, so I've got my first end has been cut, and since I don't have my machinist buddy, I got to do this. I got to get creative with this. Now this is only aluminum, so you can pretty much cut aluminum safely with your chop saw, as long as you go slow and you know, and be nice to it. Anyway, so all I did, let me show you real quick. I got my chop saw set up here with a block, and I've got the depth stopping at a certain level. So essentially what I'm doing is just putting my piece of material in there, turning it on, and bringing the let's put this right here, bringing this down to the level, and just rotating it. Turn this on, just rotate that, just spin the piece, and just spin it real slow, and I get my nice notch out of it. And there it is. Of course, I have my deburr tool. I used to work in a machine shop when I was younger. I've had this for years. Deburr that out, and use a Dremel on it just to clean the edge up a little bit if needed. And let's see how it's fitting. Oh, presto, like a glove, and no movement really. I mean, it's a little bit, but it'll be all right. That's a good fit. So there's our first cut to our extension. Perfect. Okay. After about I don't know, 10 minutes of cutting. What I did is I just parted this off on the chop saw, measured my distance, and parted it nice and clean, and just took the Dremel with this cutting tool in there. It's made more for wood, and so I probably trashed it, but just rained it out, got to a certain depth, and then just kept going around and around, and try to fit it and grind, and so now it looks like I've got a pretty good fit. Oh yeah. And it's even all around. So that's good. So the difficult piece is done. Now all I gotta do is just measure this and cut it, the inside tube, and then I gotta drill through it, drill a hole, and for the spring stopper. So that's, that spring's only so long. So anyway, looks pretty good. Okay, so I just slipped my piece in there, and I must say, for a hack like me, that fits pretty flippin' perfect. Well, I take that back. There's ever so little bit of gap here. I don't like that, so I'm going to take off a little bit just on the chop saw just take off just a hair and bring this in closer. Because I got the pin in, and I got the whole thing in there, the pin in the front, so I know my dimensions are going to be right. I got to cut this guy a little bit more so I can bring the handguard just a little closer, and then I think we'll be good. Okay, so I just got done cutting off my inside tube. All I used was my Dremel and my cutting tool here. Took a couple minutes, but it cut through, and then I put the sander on there and just kind of sanded off the inside, deburred it, so it's nice and smooth. Okay, so let's put it all together. There's our inside tube. Works good. Our outside. Okay, that's fits snugly. And now I'm just going to slip on the... There we go. And that's how it's going to fit. Oh, it all works. All works fine. So another little thing you've got to either put a stopper inside that inner tube so that your spring from your gun will work right. But what I just discovered was the spring that came out of the H&K back plate. Oops. Remember this guy here? Yeah, well, this was inside this guy. It was part of the deal. And I bet you $100 I'm going to be able to cut that to size and not have to deal with pinning that in there or putting a stopper in there. So I'm going to try that because they're the same size spring. The H&K is a little heavier gauge, but it's pretty much the same coil, same everything. So I'm gonna give that a shot. Okay, so going back to that spring deal, here's the spring that came out of the charging handle tubing for the original one on the gun. And what I did is grab the grab the one out of the back plate and the rod of the the old H&K G3, and all I did was cut it. So here's the other piece of it. So I whacked off some of it. What I did is I stuck it in the gun, brought the charging handle back, tried to see pretty much where it stops, and so I came up with a piece that was a little bit longer than the 3 inches, 2.5 inches longer than the original one. Now the GSG spring it's pretty small gauge. It's flexible. The one that came out of the H&K is pretty stiff, but I did cut it a little bit shorter than it needed to be, because it is a pretty stiff spring. But if I can avoid having to put a pin in here or something to stop that spring short, that's then you're winning. Okay, so I'm gonna slip that spring in there, and let's put our inner tube in there. Okay, that's all working right. Let's see, where's my other part? Where's my... Oh, I was just coating this. Let's see, it's black now. So let's put this guy on there. Okay. And here's our charging handle. So things are getting a little crowded here. Apologize for that. let's put the barrel in there. Whoopsie. Get the... Okay, so there we go. Everything is fitting together properly. Of course, the last thing I've got to put together here is I've got to build that support piece from here to the receiver end here. That is going to be a pretty easy one. Like your local hardware store, they carry little aluminum stock, and I think aluminum will do just fine. Just make a little bracket that goes from here to here. Pretty simple. But anyway, so we've got that together. What I'm going to do is, so I got to charge this. Let's see if I can. Let's aim the camera up a little bit. There we go. There we go. I'm going to just kind of hold everything together. Yep, well, the action seems to work. Let's aim this up a little bit. See, here we are. It's fully open. Closed. Yeah. Looks like that spring is gonna work just fine. So I've just saved myself a lot of hassle with doing that whole pinning thing. So where am I now? I went down and bought some 5/16 rounded steel stock, and decided I would try to fabricate my own extension piece. And so this is what I came up with. I've got the first hole drilled in there. This is pretty crude. I don't have, I'm doing this all with my, angle grinder and my vise. But what I did is I took a little cutting disc here, a thin one, and was able to just cut this out and then just slowly grind it wide out of this piece of steel. So essentially what I've done was kind of like a tuning fork, but that's going to fit. It's going to fit just like this over that one right there. And then this piece is going to fit in the end of the receiver. All right. So I just got done taking off the bottom and top edge, flatten it out a little bit, because there is a little ridge on your barrel. So, this stuff isn't going to be perfect, but it's going to be, I think it's going to be close enough. So let me move this camera here a little bit. Let's take a look at the gun. All right. So here we are. Oh, we need some light. There we go. So this guy is going to fit right in there like that. Fits nicely. And I'm just going to kind of put it together kind of rough right now, just so I can see how everything is going to fit. Okay, so this is the main screw, and this thing fits pretty straight. Looks good. And this is the rear set. The rear set screw. I'll just put that one in there real quick. Hope that's the right one. That feels kind of snug. Okay, that's in there. And there's the fit. Whoops, sorry. So there it is. That looks pretty good. I'm just going to put my tube in here real quick. See how that fits up. Oh, good. Yeah, that fits nicely against that tube. All right, well, here's a moment of truth. Let's see if all this stuff falls together like it should. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that actually works pretty good. All we need to do now is put a screw in there, screw hole in there, and snug it up, and we should be good. Yeah, that looks pretty good. You know, what wouldn't be a bad idea would be to somehow clamp this to the barrel. You know? The other thing would be, you know, to drill and tap this. But I don't know, maybe it'd be better if I was to, you know, clamp this with something. Build a little clamp of some sort. Okay, well, that looks pretty good so far. Let me get that screw drilled in there, that screw hole drilled, and I'll be right back. I got the piece drilled, and you can see I've got it mounted on the charging handle already. It looks okay. It's not the best. It's not the best job, but I think it's going to work. So let's see. Let's get our pieces all put back together again. Our spring and our charging tube. Okay. Spring is in there. And we'll put our outside tube over. Put that in place. And now let's slip everything together and see how it goes. Let's put that right in there. Ooh. Bada bing. That fit. Looks like I've got a little bit of gap. I really don't want, but I'm going to have to live with it until I can get my machinist buddy to mill the part I really want for this. But for now, for assembling purposes, looks like it's gonna come together. Just give it a little push. Now we'll put the set screw in. Okay, give that a nice little snug on there. We'll tighten this guy up a little bit. Don't want to crank that stuff because that's really not the toughest material. Okay, so there it is. So it's all assembled. There's the extension. Now, like I said before, I would have liked to devise a clamp between all this, you know, to really, I don't know, really stiffen that up. I mean, as it stands, it's pretty sturdy. It's like a solid piece. Look at that. Action works. That's a good thing. So let's get my handguard on there. Okay. Boy, that looks good. Where is my... Here it is. Push pin. Oh yeah. That fits good. That fits pretty good. Probably could have got it a little tighter. See, there's still a little bit of a gap between the receiver and the fore end. Just a little one, but I don't know. It looks a lot better than having it exposed. I mean, that looks, you know, yeah, it looks like it belongs on the gun. All right, so let's see here. The other thing I'm waiting on, I did go ahead and order another whole stock, because this is all straight here. This is supposed to have a lot more material on it, and the one I got didn't. And I called Centerfire, and guy's like, I have no idea how you got one like that. Anyway, so for, you know, another $12, I can afford that. I went ahead and ordered another one, and it's on its way. But just for grins here, thought I would just put it together anyway. Let's see how things are looking. This stock fits very tight, really snug. I'm gonna almost tweak it. There we go. Push that pin through. It's so snug, I gotta get a little tap, which is okay with me. Well, there it is. So, there it is. It's assembled. And man, that thing looks sweet. Looks really good. Let's does it actuate? Look at that. Works good. Okay, so that's my it's been a long adventure, a lot of hours, a lot of time, but it looks like it's come together. I hope this video has helped you guys. If anybody else is out there thinking about doing this project, and it's a project, but you know, it can be done even with the crudest of tools. And there you go. I don't know. I guess the only other thing is you know, the barrel now is only to here, and you've got all this fake suppressor out there. So the only other thing I may consider doing is threading that barrel and putting one of my A2 bird cages on the end there from one of my AR-15s. That might be kind of cool. I think it'll fit. So anyway, there it is, guys. Looks really good. I'm going to take this to the range on Sunday with my meetup group and see how she goes. If I look down this sight, well, everything looks lined up. Right on.